Hi, this is Michelle from Erie River Publishing, and we are here today, Saturday, the 13th of August, to celebrate, or at least to talk about, the launch of It Calls from the Veil, which is our latest anthology. And this one is all about paranormal, supernatural, ghosts, demons, all of that fun, creepy, amazing stuff. And if you are like me, this is the collection that you have been dying for, or at least waiting for. Like, hopefully you haven't died or anything. But if you have, I hope that you enjoyed reading it as well. So this is The Calls from the Veil. This is available in paperback. We have some amazing authors here today. We've got three authors. We've got Rachel C.A. McDonald, and Constantine is here. And I'm just giving you a little sneak peek. We've got this story itself has a book itself has 18 terrifying tales. And we are very privileged to have Nikki from, I always get it wrong, Dark Pages. Yeah, Dark Between the Pages. She did the forward for us, and we're very appreciative. She did a great job. But again, 18 terrifying tales. Now, Erie River Publishing is a small publishing house. We are based in Ontario, Canada, and we publish dark fiction. We really love to explore the weird and the creepy and the terrifying with our horror, our dark fantasy, and our urban fantasy. So you can check us out everywhere. We're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. We have a Patreon, and we're also on Instagram. But without further ado, let's introduce these crazy authors that wrote these amazing stories. We're going to start with Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Really hot.
Yes. Yeah. Tell us where you're from again.
From Gloucestershire area of the UK.
Yeah. So you're like Heatwave Central.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, this can take your mind off of it. These terrifying tales. They'll give you shivers.
Yeah. Waiting for the chills.
Yeah, exactly. All right. The next one up is Casey McDonald. She's coming up right me. Hi. How are you doing today? Oh, I think you went mic'd. Unmute.
I was muted. Oops.
No, that's all right. You always want to make sure that you're not going to say something.
Yeah, it's the filter.
Talking, right?
Yeah, exactly. Keep it.
So where are you joining us from? I think I'm going to change this layout.
Near Portland, Oregon.
Okay. Portland, Oregon. Okay. How's the weather where you are?
We just got done with a horrific, hellish heat wave. So it's finally cooled down.
I know we were saying earlier, in Ontario too, it just finally left us. I opened my windows for the first time and it felt like 3 months. It hasn't been that. It wasn't actually, it just felt like 3 months because it was awful. But so you guys are out of the heat wave too?
Yes.
Yes. See, it's coming for you, Rachel. It's coming. It's almost there.
Yeah, there will be relief.
Yeah. Okay. Next one we have Constantine. Am I saying your name right?
Yep. Perfectly fine.
Okay, perfect. All right. And where are you joining us from?
I'm joining from Athens, Greece, where we also have our own version of a terrible heat wave, although these past couple of days have been a little bit better, but I'm guessing the heat wave is returning as far as I know. So, fingers crossed that.
Well, yeah, you'll probably get a little bit more. But either way, Athens, Greece, I would go there in a second for a heat wave.
We do have some wonderful, beaches here for you to go and swim. So it helps. Yeah. It helps a lot. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, well, let's talk about It Calls from the Veil. This novel, this anthology is all about supernatural, paranormal. That's what the call was really about, is kind of dive into that idea. So I have a question for everyone before we get into the readings or anything. And I wanted to say hi to everyone that's watching as well. Do you believe in ghosts? Let's talk about this. Rachel, we wrote stories about this. Do you believe in ghosts?
I saw a lot of crazy crap when I was a kid that I would say were sort of supernatural experiences, but then you get older and you just think, well, that's just maybe remembered a little bit wrong. But
Yeah. Yeah, well, kids' imaginations are kind of intense.
I did
And do
have
they
this
also
one.
see things that we can't see? Because like my daughter swears there was a girl in like this, not a girl, a guy in like this cottage that we were renting that would just stand at the door and stare at her. And she would wave to him and there was nobody there.
I had like a dark shadow following me around. There's this one time I was on these cliffs with my brothers rock climbing,
Yeah.
and my brother was ahead of me, and he reached down and grabbed me and pulled me up. And he didn't know that I was falling. He just said he didn't know why he grabbed me, and that figure was at the bottom of the cliffs. So that was like one of those freaky moments. But
Yeah, that
I
is
don't.
super freaky. Oof. Well, we've got some people saying hi. So Shelby's here today. Hello, Shelby. She was an author of ours, and she was here with us on Thursday. She's from Canada. Today is our International Day, where we've got UK, we've got Greece, and we've got the United States. So it's exciting. So hello. Well, yeah. And we've got another one. Hello, everyone that's joined. If you have any questions, again, just pop them through. We're going to be going through a reading, and we're going to have all the questions for all the authors. David Green is here. Hello, David Green. Someone haunted her. Oh, very cool. That's cool. Shelby just threw a question in that we'll get to later tonight. Constantine, do you believe in ghosts? Are you like a supernatural believer?
That's a very interesting question because I was actually raised by a very particular mother, let's say. So my mother is a firm believer of everything supernatural, and my house growing up was pretty much like a veritable haunted place. She had many different stories for many different parts of it about demons, ghosts, and so on and so forth. For example, at some point I had a guy that came at my house in order to perform an exorcism on me. So you could say that I have gone through some particular situations that have allowed me to keep an open mind, I guess.
I feel like you have glossed over the most exciting thing of this story,
The fact
that you had an exorcism performed on your body.
Yes, it was an interesting experience. There were many different stories in relation to my house, but my mother at some point she thought like, something was plaguing us, I guess, and she contacted this exorcist who came at our house and did all these different things that eventually became fodder for the majority of my stories, I guess, when it comes to
wow.
But
I can't wait to get into this with you one another day because I am.
Yeah, there were many interesting things there, but it did help me keep an open mind. So I can't say that like I believe in everything, but I always like to think that things are out there because they make the world a bit more interesting. So I guess my answer would lean more into the yes side of things.
Okay.
That
I feel like that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, more or less growing up the way I did, I guess you could say it's kind of fair.
Right, exactly. All right, what about you, Daddy? Casey.
Okay, so I know it sounds crazy to say that you do a little bit, like it's a little bit crazy, but I do, because when I was a kid, I also lived in a place that was legitimately had something going on in it. Like my family actually moved because of that. Like we couldn't handle it. It was like my mom would hear there was a gravel driveway out in the front of the house, and my dad he was a long haul trucker, so he'd go off to work, and my mom would be doing dishes, and she would hear work boots on the gravel, and she'd be like,
That's very distinct sound too.
Yes, it's very specific, right?
Yeah.
And she would be like, oh, he's on his way, he must be home early. And then she would hear him like the door open, and then she'd be standing there and then feel like he was like right behind her, and she'd turn around and there was nobody there. And that was like one of the things, like her keys would end up moved around the house. Like we would hear sounds in the there's like a cornfield out back behind where our house was, or I must not have been corn because that wouldn't make sense for where we live, but it was some sort of, I thought it was corn as a kid, so it must have been something else. But yes, and then I saw
also like corn, but still.
Yeah, I don't think the corn had anything to do with it, but yeah, it
a
was
field. That's all that matters.
some sort of some kind of green plant was growing back there, and it was big. So yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm excited that I am with some true believers, or at least open-minders, because I am like, yeah, I definitely believe in it. Which is why I love these types of stories because they creep me right out. So we're gonna start doing our stories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say goodbye to everyone but Constantine, and then he's going to, well, we're going to talk about his story a little bit, and then take some questions if we have any, and then we'll go one after the other and just reading our stories, or parts of. But thank you all for being here, and we will see you all very soon. Again, if I take you out of this great stream, please just come back. Don't ghost me. Boom, boom. Sometimes I think I'm just too funny for live TV or YouTube.
Stand-up comedy.
Yeah,
exactly. It's always a nice career move.
Yeah, I might make more money. Maybe like have a couple pennies to rub together. So let's talk about your story. So this is the book. Again, your story. I should have. Every time I do one of these, I'm like, I need to make sure I write everyone's stories down so that I can like have it right there. Midnight Visit.
Yes.
Your story is Midnight Visit. Tell me about this story. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it before you start reading, or do you want to just like jump right into it? Are you starting at the beginning?
I'm starting close to the beginning, so if you want, I can like. Yeah, that's indeed me. Love the eyes above the title. They're always, very creepy.
Always watching.
They're always watching. That's true. Whenever you start a new chapter, they're there. So it's I can if you'd like, I can read a part and we can talk about that.
Okay.
After.
I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let myself go. You start reading and I will talk to you after.
Okay.
Have fun.
Thank you. So just to provide a bit of context, I'm going to be reading close to the beginning. So it's not going to be immediately at the start. It's about a page and a half inside. But just a bit of context to make sure you understand what's going on. So within the story, essentially, we start with a protagonist who is a guy named Marcus. And he's a plumber who is responding to a late night call for work. And up until that point in the story, we sort of get introduced to the fact that he is married to the love of his life. He has a 6-year-old daughter at home and then also a baby on the way. So pretty much he is forced to take additional work in order for him to be able to make up some money. And this particular call takes him to a sort of like a ramshackle neighborhood, I guess. And I will start reading from the moment he is about to knock on the door of the person that actually invited him. So I'm just going to read a small part from there. So yeah, I'm starting from that point. So Marcus raised a hesitant hand and knocked, his mind drifting to his little girl, Trisha, as it always did when he needed some cheering up. He'd tucked her in before he'd gone out, and she'd made him promise to wake her up when he returned, to make sure he'd gotten back safely. She was the most wonderful 6-year-old in the world, and he was going to make sure she had everything him and his wife never had as kids. Same for his unborn boy. The sound of muffled footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. Someone approached from the other side of the door. A clank tore at the silence of the hallway, followed by the jingling of keys as the door was unlocked and opened a crack, its hinges creaking and releasing a cold, sickly light from within. He was midway to forcing a smile when he paused as the half-concealed face of a guy emerged between the gap, head slightly bowed, a weary eye locked on Marcus. "Yes?" the man asked, whisper-like. Hello," Marcus replied, managing a lopsided grin. "I'm Marcus Barrows." The man kept staring at him, pulling the door back a bit more, his whole form coming into view. Marcus caught a glimpse of a television somewhere in the background, the source of the pallid glow, the stranger's shape cast ominously against it. He was barefoot, sporting a set of ragged, baggy brown pants, and what used to be a white tank top, now tainted by smears of various hues and origins. And he was thin. No, not thin. Emaciated. His whole body looked withered, his arms almost entirely skin and bone, veins engraved across them, ribcage fully visible above the slack neckline of his stretched shirt, his cheeks pulled in, gray, darkened eyes sunken in their sockets beneath his bald scalp. The hair at Marcus's nape stood on edge. There was something eerie about the guy's gaunt form, the screen's luminosity radiating around it, giving him an almost otherworldly, skeletal quality. "Are you Mr. Simmons?" Marcus asked, after an uncomfortable amount of silence. The stranger's eyes narrowed. "I am." "We spoke on the phone a couple of hours ago," Marcus said, the tenant frowning. "I'm here about the bathroom sink?" Simmons averted his gaze momentarily before returning his attention back to his visitor. "Oh," he said, realization flashing across his fatigued visage. "The plumber?" "That's me," Marcus replied jovially, tugging at the straps of his overalls. I'm sorry," Simmons said, rubbing his forehead as he chuckled feebly. "I had dozed off. My brain's still half asleep," he continued, wincing as he swallowed. "Don't worry about it. I tried ringing downstairs but got no response, so I let myself in. Hope that's all right." "Sorry about that. The buzzer has been malfunctioning for the past few months. I should have mentioned that during our call," he explained, swallowing once more. "It slipped my mind. I'm truly sorry," Simmons went on, cringing. "No worries," the plumber reassured him, his forehead creasing as he observed the man's countenance. When was the last time this guy slept? He wondered. He looked beyond exhausted. The lean man looked at him, pursing his lips. Marcus's brows converged. There was something odd about the way Simmons stared, his gray eyes giving off a discreet intensity. They glinted against the warm light of the hallway, despite his tired visage. The orange glow of the lamps contrasted the one coming from the television. Simmons must have caught him looking, because his eyes went wide abruptly. "Please, come on in," he said hurriedly, opening the door and stepping to the side, extending a bony arm toward the inside in invitation. Marcus looked ahead, his gaze traveling down the length of the apartment. The sharp shadows cast by the blue radiance of the screen were as uninviting as the building itself. His thoughts gravitated toward his daughter yet again, sleeping soundly back home, her little arms wrapped tightly around Fluffers, her favorite teddy bear, the one he'd bought her for her 5th birthday. "Remember what's at stake," he thought. "Thank you, Mr. Simmons," he said, nodding. "Arthur," the man retorted. Just call me Arthur, please." "Arthur it is," the plumber obliged with a smile. He passed the threshold, and a faint, sour smell assaulted his nostrils, a mix of dampness and probably rotten food. The tang intensified as he moved further in, finding himself in the living room. Marcus glanced back in time to see Arthur shut the door, the last sliver of the hallway's light disappearing from sight. The man locked it with his keys and pocketed them, before securing it further by sliding an iron bolt attached to the entrance at about head height. The plumber's mouth tightened, and beads of sweat started forming on his forehead. Maybe visiting this part of the city at this hour hadn't been wise. I'm just going to leave it at that, because from this point on, things get weird, I guess. So.
Things get weird. That's the best part, is when things start getting weird.
Yes, I know. That's why I left it there. So,
yeah, I know.
You want to know what's happening? Go buy the book.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Oh, I forgot to put that banner up. So yeah, the book right now is still on a $2.99 special. Where is that? There it is. Calls from the Veil. It's on a $2.99 special for the ebook if you buy it off of Amazon. It's on Kindle Unlimited as well. But again, we have the paperback and we have hardcover. My hardcover hasn't arrived yet, but we've got the paperback and it's beautiful. And if you are curious about what happens next, which I know you are, grab the book. It's easy as buying the book, and then you can read it. So tell me the inspiration about this one, because I really enjoyed the buildup of it, like the atmosphere that you created, this character. Like, where did you get that idea?
Actually, the whole idea for the story, I think, probably popped up in my head around the end of 2020. There was a call, let's say, for submissions that was back there that was for something that included the supernatural, and I already had a sort of idea in my head about two people that are sort of cramped inside the tightly knit space, which in this specific case is the apartment, and something bad is happening. So I started toying with this idea back then about a separate call, but I quickly realized that the word limit that was applied for that call wouldn't be enough for me to tell the story I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I gave it a shot in order for me to see if the story would make sense, but it didn't. So eventually I started working on it to make it a bit bigger. And right about the time I finished, it was, the time I also saw your call. So it was fate, I guess.
It was
And
fate.
I sent,
It was fate.
yes, I sent it immediately. But more or less, part of the inspiration that led me there again was, I'm guessing, my own house, because my mother had sort of segmented the house into different places that were haunted in different ways. And one of the places that was particularly haunted was the bathroom, which, it's a very nice place to be haunted at your house. You don't use it very often. And as a kid, whenever I would just wake up at night in order to go there, I would imagine things. And one of the things I imagined was actually a thing that exists in the story. So I don't want to spoil it. But it started back there, and I sort of built on it based on a person that I had also met that kind of resembles the tenant of the apartment. So it was perfect for all situations.
That's interesting. That's a really, I have to know, what specific bathroom hauntings were there? I've never heard of a ghost just haunting a bathroom.
For our bathroom, I guess it was the mirror. Something was wrong with the mirror, at least based on what my mother was telling me. I never really experienced anything there aside from the intense fear of being a kid that lives in a place that where they
I agree. Well, you said you had like a particular mother.
Yes, my mother. Yes, my mother was. She still is really a very interesting person. Yeah, she's peculiar in the things that she.
Interesting. Okay. So. Well, thank you so much for submitting this story. Like it's a good story, and the fact that it kind of evolved out of a haunting from a bathroom from your childhood makes it even more exciting for me, because I enjoyed it just having no idea where the inspiration was from. But now I'm going to reread that with that kind of fear base already instilled. Yeah. So thanks so much. Thank you for coming, and we're going to bring up Casey next, and then we're going to do a wrap up at the end. When everyone's done their stories, we can just talk about what's going on with us next. But okay, so we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to be bringing up Casey very shortly, but I do want to say that Holly Cornetto was able to join us, so she is going to be coming, and she's going to be reading right after Casey. So, all right, Daddy, are you ready? Ready? Okay. Here we go. So your story, again, do you know what? I got to remember to write. I'm going to do this when people start reading now, is just write their story names down. Your story is Cold Baptism. Now, did you want to give us a little bit of a sneak preview of what's going on in here? Do you want to talk about it, or do you want to just like ram right in there?
I'm going to read from the beginning. So,
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, then we'll talk about it later. Enjoy. I will see you in a minute. However minutes it takes.
Okay, so here we go. Detective Roland Carney pulled the car into the driveway of 600 Hollow Lane and killed the engine. He'd been silent since the start of the drive, and Julietta wondered if he was going to continue the trend indefinitely. She nearly jumped out of her skin when he cleared his throat. So how's this work? He didn't look at her, but stared straight out the rain-spattered windshield to the dark silhouette of the house beyond. We go in, I walk around, tell you if I sense anything. A pause. Right. So that's what it was. He was a non-believer. Once she would have launched into a tirade of self-defense, but after 25 years of being neck-deep in the supernatural, she couldn't give two shits if he believed she was really psychic or not. She was here to do a job. Julietta got out of the car and let the icy rain wash over her, clearing her head for the work in front of her. Going in with compromised emotions could make the scene hard to read, much like trying to detect a smell in the air if you were already wearing perfume. She needed to be neutral and centered to do her best work. Her mind settled into the familiar assessment ritual required at crime scenes. See the facts first, and then let the ethereal qualities come second. An older home, though well-maintained, built in the early 20th century. Roses out front, battered to limp corpses by the assailing rain. A little moss in the gutter, but no obvious maintenance issues. You in a hurry, Miss Wander? The detective asked, rushing through the rain to join her under the relative safety of the front porch. He pulled out a key and unlocked the door. I'm missing my shows. Maybe his disbelief bothered her more than she was willing to admit. He gave a dry chuckle. No Netflix? She didn't laugh. Can I see the pictures? Bless him, Detective Carney looked a little sheepish. He pulled out a file from under his jacket and opened it, flipping through it as she fished for a light switch on the wall. Urine yellow incandescent light flooded the living room when she found it. A sofa with cushions worn flat, an older TV, a recliner complete with knit remote holder draped over the arm. So they didn't find anyone in this room, just blood on the wall there. He held up a glossy 5x7 of a bloody streak, deep brownish crimson against wallpaper, the shade of nicotine-stained fingernails. Julietta stepped away from him a little. She took a breath and focused on the feeling of her feet on the floor and the stillness of the room. Are you? Yeah, quiet, please. She heard the photo rejoin the others in the file, tried to forget about him, let her thoughts settle. She became quiet, small, then nothing. Let what was beyond reach in. Let it find her open and willing to listen. Anger hit her at 90 miles an hour. Her fists curled, breath held. She rocked on her heels with it, letting out an explosive sigh that made the detective visibly jump. What the fuck? She released the rage before she tried to punch him in his face. Her own thoughts and feelings returned in a soft rush, soothing where the scorching anger had singed. He was pissed, she said. The killer. Are you going to do that again? Can you warn me next time? She looked at him. I don't know what I'll find. I never do. Great. Did you hear what I said? I said the guy was mad. Okay. Anything else? I was too distracted by the sound of you shitting your pants, she wanted to say, but held her tongue. Fuck, the anger was the sticky kind, hard to wash off, even when she came back to herself. She took a breath, made sure her feelings were her own before she spoke again. No, nothing else yet. It takes a minute sometimes. Okay. She blew out a tight breath and looked away from him. I can stop there.
Okay. I was like, I just want to make sure. Okay. That's I really enjoyed the story a lot. Where did you come up with like the concept and the idea of it?
I think I was watching Mindhunter when
Okay.
I wrote it. So I was like, okay, so take that sort of vibe of trying to get into the head of a killer, and then how would you incorporate in a paranormal side to that? So, because I write from the prompt, right? So I saw like what the anthology concept was, and then kind of went like, okay, so I'm feeling this, so how can I work those kind of things together? And so that went with like, okay, so what if the main character, instead of being like a psychological profiler, is like a psychic profiler instead? And so that's how they get their information.
Yeah, totally. No, I love that you write from the prompt, because that just makes me feel special for a moment. Because it's exciting when I hear people like actually write for our anthologies as well, because I know we all have a bunch of stories that are off to the side, but every once in a while we get one that's like original for us. So, so that's exciting, and I love that you got, because it did. I think there were a couple that came in that were psychic mediums working with that kind of. It had that, not necessarily that feel, but like that plot, and I thought you did it really uniquely, and I really liked the pacing of it, and actually picks up quite a bit and gets horrific, and I think that is exciting, and I hope a lot of people really like that, because you don't see that true crime kind of feel,
which is crazy. I love true crime. Like I have like just the biggest appreciation for like detective fiction, like everything from like noir. I mean, I listen to like true crime podcasts. Like and there's such like a rich like a possibility there to incorporate horror elements, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's just a gold mine.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. So thank you for writing it, because it was a blast to read. And I'm so glad. I really think that a lot of people will enjoy it when they get into it. And again, if you want to read it, find out what happens. Here's the book. And again, we've got it on Kindle Unlimited. You can get it Kindle on Amazon right now, and as well as paperback and hardcover. So thank you so much for reading and for coming. And we'll chat again after everyone is finished, and just you can tell us what's going on with you next. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye. All right. So next we have Holly Cornetto. She's going to be reading from her story. I'm going to bring her up. Just want to make sure she's ready before yeah, we got thumbs up. We're good. Hey.
Hey.
Nice to see you.
Sorry I'm late.
That's okay.
But I'm here and I'm excited to be here.
All right, perfect. Your story is the first one in the book, right?
It is.
Yeah. A few small repairs. I really enjoyed this story from you. Did you want to give a little spiel about it, or you want to just right in? I don't know where you're reading from.
Yeah, I'll give just a little bit. I'm not going to be reading from the very beginning. I'm going to be reading a couple scenes in. So for context, the story, two twin sisters are going back to visit their grandmother's home where they had spent summers growing up in their childhood. So maybe that is hopefully the only context you need. But, I'm always open for questions. Yes, grandmother has passed away, and we have now returned to her empty home. Thus, the title of the story, A Few Small Repairs. The house is kind of in not great shape.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I will leave you be. Enjoy.
All right.
I'll see you soon.
She leaves me alone with you guys. You're all very scary. Hi. All right. So again, the title of the story is A Few Small Repairs. So 3 women sat at the kitchen table, heads bowed and hands locked together in prayer. Granny called them the Praying Sisters. Of all the ghosts in the house, these were the ones Anne had asked about the most. We'd always talked about ghosts before. She saw different ones from those I saw, so we traded stories. She'd even had nightmares. Then one day, it was like she stopped seeing them. She still asked about mine, though, at least for a while. Granny tried explaining the mysteries of the afterlife to me once or twice. Most of the ghosts are harmless enough, she'd said. They just want to be seen and remembered. But some are drawn to the living. They want to possess, take over, begin anew. Those are the ones that lurk unseen in corners and prey upon the vulnerable. The Praying Sisters had always been the harmless sort, content to sit around the table in prayer. They hadn't changed in the years since I'd seen them last, still wearing their Sunday best, dresses at least 100 years old. Hello, ladies. They never answered, but it felt rude to ignore them regardless. The fridge's contents made me roll my eyes. Anne went vegan a year ago, convinced the diet would help her live forever. Almond milk, cashew cheese, and a big block of tofu sat on the main shelf. Going without booze was one thing, but going without bacon was a different matter entirely. After taking a glass from the cabinet, I turned on the tap. The pipes gurgled and started, then spit out brown water. Does nothing in this house work anymore? I slammed the glass down on the counter, but it wasn't the house I was angry at. I reached in the fridge for the almond milk, pouring a glass and emptying it in a few large swallows. Almond milk wasn't going to slake the kind of thirst I had. I replaced the carton and closed the fridge, leaning against the door. The Praying Sisters stared straight at me. I bit my lip to stifle a yelp. They'd never moved before, never paid any attention to the living. Sorry if I disturbed you. My voice was shaking. With their heads raised, I could see their faces clearly. In the kitchen's dim light, they looked older than I'd thought, probably in their 50s. Beware the bottle. I couldn't tell which spoke. None of their mouths moved. The hairs on my arms stood. The ghost had never spoken. I gulped down oxygen in shallow, rapid breaths, processing the words she'd said. Beware the bottle? Jesus Christ, even the goddamn ghosts knew I was an alcoholic. My fear turned to anger. These people were dead. What right did they have to lecture me? Mind your own fucking business, I snapped before crossing the room and heading back down the hall. I hesitated in front of Anne's door. Part of me wanted to wake her and tell her what had happened. We were 13 the last time she told me to stop talking about the ghosts, that it wasn't funny to make things up anymore. And it made me think, maybe that was why her ghost had always been different from mine. Maybe she hadn't actually seen them. She'd only made up stories like she thought I'd been doing. After that, I only talked to Granny about the ghosts. I crept back into bed and pulled the blanket over my head in case any of the house's other residents decided to come and lecture me about how I was living my life. And I'm going to stop there. So, Michelle, come back. Help.
I'm coming back. I love how you get into your stories, man.
I do. Very intense.
It is. It is very intense. Yeah, I really love. I love the story.
I would hope so.
Well, yeah, it's in there. But like the play of the characters back together, and like they're different. Yes. Do you know what? I don't want to ruin it, so I'm gonna stop. But what was your inspiration for this one?
I had a lot going on. So I had never written a ghost story.
Yeah.
And I saw The Call, and I had thought about what a ghost story for me would look like. And I think the most interesting things that I wanted to play with is I knew I wanted my characters to be twins. Like I wanted twins. I've always wanted to kind of play with that trope. So I knew right away that the characters were going to be twins. And I knew one of them was going to be troubled. So my main character, the point of view character, is Lynn, and she is a recovering alcoholic. So I knew I wanted that because I think for me, one of the more interesting things about like hauntings is that you can be haunted by ghosts or something, but I also like the kind of like haunted by bad decisions, the haunted by your past, the haunted by troubles. And I really wanted her to be more haunted by and more disturbed by, things in her life than the actual ghosts, which is why she kind of has the nonchalant attitude, and she kind of cusses at the ghosts and stuff, because the ghosts aren't really what she's afraid of. She's got bigger problems than the ghosts.
Yeah.
So that was, I guess, in a nutshell, kind of like my thinking behind this when I was developing it, is I wanted someone who had so much shit going on in their lives that ghosts were not that big of a deal to them at the moment. So
yeah. No, I think you did it really well. It was a unique perspective on it, but it also had a really interesting twist, which we are not going to talk about.
Buy the book.
Yeah, but you can find out really easily by buying the book. It's $2.99. Again, paperback and hardcover. So I'm going to see you in a couple minutes. We're going to say hello now to. So I'll talk to you guys later. Oh, well, I'll just see if there's any comments or anything. Oh, we've got some people coming to say hi. So we're saying, I never get the story. Okay. I'm new here, all the way down from Nigeria. Hello. Nice to meet you.
That's far. Hi.
Yeah. We were saying earlier that we are the international group because we've got Greece, UK, Canada, and US. So
sweet.
Yes. And now Nigeria. All right. Well, I'll see you in a couple minutes. Rachel, are you ready? I'm just going to pretend you're ready. You're coming on. Okay, good. You're like, yeah, I'm here. It's so hot.
It is. I escaped into the garden while Holly was reading, but I could still hear her.
Oh, no.
I was like, I've got to follow that. Great.
I'm like, do you have a fan? Can you just like wave yourself with a book?
I've got to read it in a minute.
Yes. Okay. Your story. Oh my gosh. I took it
Hunted.
out. Yes. Thank you. The Hunted. Are you reading right from the beginning, or do you want to talk about it a little bit before we run in?
Yeah, I'm going to read from the beginning.
Okay. I will let you go. Sorry, my book just fell off my lap. Okay. See you in a minute.
We're alone. The shop girl jolts as the buzzing tube lights flicker. They keep doing that. She shudders, looking up at them like they'll stay on if watched. I glance over my shoulder down the two-aisled store. Gaps in the shelves mark where I've bought more than my fair share, but I can't come out often. I adjust my mask. A burden to some, but I couldn't be happier considering mine and Eamon's faces are plastered all over the newspapers stuck next to me. They're meant to be compulsory, these masks, but I'm not going to pull the shop girl up for letting hers dangle from one ear. The girl hands me another full bag and starts ringing up and packing items into the next. You were in a few weeks back, weren't you? She asks. Yeah, this was just supposed to be a short rambling holiday while our contract went through on a house, but the pandemic hit and we'd already moved out of our place when the new one got taken off the market. Dream house. Should have said dream house. Sell the lie, moron. The girl behind the perspex smiles at me. So Connie let you stay? Of course she knows where we're staying. Small village like this, everyone's a gossip. Worked out for both of us. All her holiday bookings were cancelled and we got nowhere to go until lockdown's up. A bead of sweat trickles down my forehead. I look at the paper. It's not the best picture, but is the mask and bad dye job really going to stop her from recognising me? A bunch of bullshit is tucked between those pages. They can make up all the charges they want. Something far deadlier than the police is trying to flush us out. That'll be $89.67. Cash only, I'm afraid. Never had a good enough service around here for a card reader. Internet's terrible as well, I say, hoping it sounds like a complaint. Not one more benefit for choosing this place. She nods her agreement and passes over my change. The lights flicker again, staying off longer this time. Could you... I grab the last bag as she hands it over, but she keeps a grip on it. Could you stick around? Just while I lock up, I mean. I don't scare easy, but... Her voice trails off, and she looks back up at the lights. Not afraid of ghosts, are you? I snigger. Worse than that out there. Things that don't belong in this world. Things that crawl straight out of hell. But I'm not about to add to her fear. No. She laughs it off and lets go of the bag, but the fear beneath the smile sways me. If the power goes out, you'll need someone to hold the flashlight. A small kindness, the decent thing to do, even though every fibre of my being is screaming to leave the girl and get back to the cottage. I've been gone too long already. The girl closes up shop like she's on speed. Never seen anyone move so fast, and when we're both standing outside, me with a flashlight and her with the keys rattling in her hands, that fear of hers leaks into me. I'm urging her to lock the door in my head, but when the key clicks, there's this awkward moment. She's staring wide-eyed over my shoulder down the lane I need to travel. Is she trembling? Well, good night then, I say with a half-hearted wave. Be careful, she replies. I go to ask her what she means by that, but she's already jogging away. Huh, strange girl. Probably knows the ghost story Connie told us the day we moved in. I'm probably going to leave it there. You have no voice.
Sorry, I was like, wait. I'm so...
I was going to read the next bit, but it calls for an accent, and I do not have the confidence for it today. So.
You're like, it's too hot for an accent.
Yeah.
So tell me, where did the inspiration for this one come from? Because it was it's a really unique play. Well, when you get into it, it's a really neat, unique play on a trope I did not expect. So, like, where did this come from?
Well, I wrote 2 stories for the call, and I had very different ideas about what I wanted to do. But this one was kind of inspired from, like, the COVID stuff is just in the beginning. That's the kind of setting for
going on with my hair
for them. But I was like going outside when it was cold and I had a mask on, and I thought, oh, that's actually keeping me a bit warmer. What are the other benefits that someone might have to actually having to wear these stupid things? And then I thought, well, hiding and what could be hunting you, you know? There's some tropes at play I can't really say without giving.
No, I know, and that's the thing, you can't really talk about it because it plays into the whole thing. But it's interesting that, like, the mask itself inspired some sort of idea of, like, staying warm and also at the same time, like,
hiding your identity,
hiding from something, and then it just kind of snowballed into this idea of these people hiding and getting into things. And I think that's a really cool idea, and I think people want to read it. They can all obviously just go buy the book. Yeah, exactly. You got your copy too. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for reading. If anyone has any questions for any of our authors, please feel free to ask anything at all. Excellent reading voices. You all can do your own Audible. Is one of the comments we got. Okay, I'm going to bring everybody else up. So if you are on your screen, put your clothes back on, and here we go. We've got Casey coming in first, Constantine, and then Holly, you're next. All right, everybody. I'm going to try to make this so it doesn't look so wonky. All right, that's a little bit better. So we got a couple of questions at the beginning of this. Here's one question. Is there a type of horror you'd like to write but haven't yet? Maybe something you'd like to see Erie River do for an anthology prompt. Does anyone want to get into who would like to go first? What kind of horror have you not written yet that you would like to write? Or have you written it all?
I can go first. Actually, one thing that I haven't written, I was never really interested in writing was, let's say, vampire fiction, I guess, things about vampires and so on and so forth. I always thought
wondering who was going to say erotic horror, and it's you.
I haven't done that either. So, there's a first time for everything, but vampire fiction was pretty much something that I always considered how I could do differently. And I had like a few ideas that I would like to test out, but that's something that I haven't done. It's been done to death. So, I was always trying to figure out a new way of doing this. So that's something.
If not, it's been done to undeath.
Yes, probably.
Yeah. Holly, is there a horror that you had, like a trope or a genre that you haven't really delved into yet that you would like to?
I think for me, maybe sci-fi horror. I haven't done very much with sci-fi. In general, sci-fi is not my favorite. Like I like some, but not all. So I haven't really done much with it, but I think there's a lot to be done there. I think that specifically like in regards to technology and stuff. And I think maybe that's why I don't read a ton of sci-fi, because I don't necessarily like the space opera kind of thing. Like it's cool for what it is, but it's not like something I personally prefer. But I think like sci-fi horror that deals with like technology, like internet gone wrong, the things like that, like a biotechnic upgrades for humans, things that could conceivably happen. I think there's some interesting things going on, and I would like to at some point put my pen down and try my hand at that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've done I was part of like a no sleep kind of thing and we did house horror, where it was like a tech house gone wrong kind of thing. That was fun. I enjoyed that. How about you, Rachel? Is there a horror kind of thing that you haven't written yet that you would like to? I know you write a lot of dark fantasy.
Yeah, I think I definitely lean more towards the supernatural and bizarre horror. But Holly might have inspired me to write some sci-fi horror. So
there we go. We're gonna have to like tag team a horror novel out of you two. What about you, Casey? Anything? Is it Cassie or Casey? Do I keep changing the way I say it too?
It's Cassie.
Cassie.
Stuck with Daddy.
I get Casey all the time though, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I would think something like a femme fatale centered horror, like woman serial killer or something like that.
Yes.
I think that would be a really neat, especially if it was more of like the psychological end of things, where it's more general derangement. Like I've written a lot of supernatural stuff, so I think it would be fun to write about something that is not supernatural.
Yeah, people are the scariest things in all of like history of everything. Let's be honest. Yeah, like we are depraved. Mm-hmm. So because I was actually thinking about that the other day about what I want. I was thinking, because I always have give myself these ideas of things I want to write, and like I want to do like a paranormal romance and all these other things and some kids books. And then all of a sudden I was like, I want to write a really messed up, like human psychopath, just like brutal body horror, kill everybody story. And we'll see if it ever actually happens. I think I was just in a mood. But I would love to get into like serial killer horror. And it's just, yeah, I think I need to read a lot more of it and then like decide whether or not I can write it well. But I think that's a fun thing to do. Oh my gosh. Here's this one from David Green. As a terrible writer, would like to get better. What tips do you have for improving your craft? And he listens intently. David Green, the one that wrote like a 700-page book that I formatted, but still. Does anyone have any tips for people to like improving their craft? My biggest tip would be read, but not just read and skim, but like read and absorb. Take things that you love from other people's work and copy it. But like if you like someone's writing style, think about like changing the way you write. Forever learn kind of thing. Any other tips for anybody?
Can I go like anthology specific?
Yeah, if you would like to. Absolutely.
So like for people out there who maybe haven't had success in writing for anthologies yet, one thing that I find is when you get the theme for the anthology, try to think of as many ideas as you can, which would fall underneath it. And keep in mind that, you know, these anthologies, especially for Erie River, get like hundreds and hundreds of submissions. And your story, in order to get like, you know, picked for these anthologies, you need to stand out. And so try to see how you can take that theme and put your own spin on it. So like, for example, with like, what I was talking about before with my story is that like, I knew, okay, this is a ghost anthology. So there are going to be a ton of people writing haunted house stories. And so how can I make mine different? And so I decided to make it where the ghosts aren't actually necessarily the source of the major horror here. And I think that you'll find that other writers have done that too. But when you're looking at these anthologies specifically, you know, think about how you can make it unique to make your story stand out of the pile. Because in a stack of like 100 ghost stories, how do you make your ghost story stand out? How do you get attention? So sorry, that was my long-winded rant.
It's a good point, especially when you are doing small, but that's also when you're doing novels as well. If you're submitting a novel to a publishing house, you want to make sure that your idea is unique and well written. Like there's only so many sparkly vampire stories that we can like read, right? Rachel, do you have any suggestions, or does anyone have any suggestions?
Yeah, I think Mr. Green there in his comment kind of answered it by listening intently. Like, you need to get people reading your work, beta readers. If you get rejections with specific feedback, take all that on board. So just really listening to feedback and not just getting offended by it. I think that can be hard for people sometimes.
Yeah, have your listening ears on instead of your heartbreak ears on.
Yeah.
Let's see, we've got a couple more questions. Would you rather live in a haunted house or work somewhere haunted?
Work somewhere haunted. You gotta be able to go home and go to sleep, right? So like do you want to spend 8 hours or 10 hours like in a haunted scary place, or do you want to spend all of your sleeping, eating, family time someplace haunted? I mean,
let's just take a poll. Who wants their work haunted versus their house, unless you work at home? Okay, we all want work. Okay.
Yeah. Of course, if you're working from home, it's problematic, but
I'm like, yeah, if my computer is haunted, though, I would kill it. I would be so angry. That's the only thing. I think I would rather take a haunted house than a haunted computer, especially if that ghost goes from computer to computer. That would kill me, because it would like mess up all my life. Okay. Do you have a favorite short story from another Erie River anthology? We're good with that. Does anyone have a favorite short story that you've read
Yes.
from one of our anthologies? Okay.
I
And
can't
right
recall the title of it. I'm so sorry. But V.A. Vasquez has a story in It Calls from the Forest.
Yeah.
And I am such a huge fan of hers. She writes some of the best like comedy horror that
Yeah.
I've ever read. Like I love her. And so I'm sorry. I have the book somewhere. Maybe I'll look for it and see if I can find the
I
title.
like my book is
Yeah, but it was definitely like author V.A. Vasquez, and the anthology is It Calls from the Forest.
okay, cool. It's hard for me to remember short stories because I read so many of them. That's what my thing is, that I go through like literal hundreds.
For me also, I think it's from It Calls. I think I have two. One's from It Calls from the Forest. I cannot remember the name of the author, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but I think the story was called The Forest Man or something like that.
That's Holly.
There you go. Loved your story. It was really nice. The way that it was set up, like going back and forth in time, that was amazing. I really loved that. And the other one, I think it was from It Calls from the Sea. I think it was the second story in the book. It's a story about a couple that goes in a swamp and they're sort of stranded and
Yes.
bad things are happening there.
Yes, that is from, I believe it's Steve Neal, but I could be wrong and making an
I'm terrible with author names. I really am. I remember like titles and things like that,
Yeah,
but I
'cause
think that the second one was from
that
there.
was a good one. That was a
Yeah,
good
it was
one.
pretty good.
I agree. All right, we do have one more question from someone. We'll go really quick before we wrap up, and we can just tell us what kind of where we can find you on social media, and if you have anything new coming out or something that just came out, maybe based on a story that you had in It Calls from the Forest. Where is that question? Oh, tell us your fears. So, do you have something that you're super scared of? It can be a phobia. What scares you the most, and like just in general? Rachel, what scares you the most?
I think in life is boring, just like losing loved ones. But if I'm watching a film or reading a book, even though I'm not claustrophobic, if a character is stuck in like a vent or crawling through a really tight dark space, I really don't like that.
I love how you split it up, because all of us yesterday were like, yeah, something happening to my kids. Because that's the scariest thing in real life, like something like that happening. But you're right. Okay, we'll do this. Real life movies or okay, we'll split the question. Okay. Cassie.
Okay, mine is both real and in fiction, and the answer is pool drains.
Really?
Oh
Like
my
at the
God.
bottom of the pool.
I have, okay, so I watched like a special when I was like 10 years old, and it was on Dateline or 2020 or one of those shows, and it was about these kids who like drowned or like had very horrendous things happen to their bodies, we'll say, because they got trapped in pool drains. And it scarred me for life. And to this day, if I swim over a pool drain, I break out in like a cold sweat. I can't do it. No.
Have you watched Final Destination? I think there's a death related to a pool drain there.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I thought you watched that and you thought, but yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Constantine, what is your real life movie fear?
Everyone that knows me will be able to answer this like in a single second, and that is sharks. Like intense, horrendous fear of sharks. And when I say fear of sharks, I don't mean like just in the water, just in my waking time as well. Like if you turn off the light in a room, then the ground becomes dark water and there's a shark there. If I'm sleeping, there's no dangling of hands or feet from the bed, because the shark will get them.
You're scared of shark monsters.
Yes. Funnily enough, I don't mind swimming in the sea in deep water, and so it's mostly sharks on land. So go figure. Who knows what sort of thing that is?
Your mother.
My mother claims that I probably was killed by a shark in a previous life, so there could be that.
You totally could be.
Could be that.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
you're scared of like land sharks.
Yes, land sharks. Like, the usual sharks that are getting people on the floor in the bedroom.
No, I feel like I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, that's
I'm not laughing.
That's
I love that. I love that answer. You were the most interesting person I've ever spoken to. Oh my gosh. Okay, Holly. Real fear, movie fear.
My biggest real fear are heights. Which is funny because I go hiking a lot. We do a lot of like hiking on mountains and things.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of a joke with me and my husband and my kid that like we'll go somewhere and like, do you want to go to the overlook? And I will creep very, very slowly to go and peek over, and they will both. They're like, you're very, very brave. You're very, very brave. It's only a little condescending, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, heights, ledges, like being on the edge of something is terrifying. I try not to let that limit me. Like I try to push past it. But just terror, like physical, like body shaking, can't move, shutting down, like my breath is affected by it. So that's number one, like real life fear. In terms of like movies and books and like tropes and things, I think I've always had this like weird, like I enjoy things that play with like madness and insanity, like a loss of control, like whether it's like someone going insane, something driving them insane, or whether it's something like, an addiction or something like that, where you just lose control of your mind and your own, and you act out of character, like you can't control yourself. Like that's terrifying to me in a much different way. But yeah, in terms of books and stuff, probably that one.
Okay.
What if you combined all of our fears together into one anthology? So it's like pools filled with sharks on a mountainside.
It's called From the
Like
Weird.
the Infinity Edge, where you look down and you're like off a cliff.
Yep. Yeah, and then that could be the call. It calls
into a pool
from the pool drains filled with sharks on the mountain.
Jeez.
I think you're onto something.
Let's do this.
This is happening.
Yeah.
I've got a story for this.
Exactly. All right, let's tell us, where can everyone, we've got to wrap up soon, so where can everybody find you on social media? What do you have coming out next, or what have you already released? Like, tell us what's going on in your lives. We're going to start with Rachel. We're going to do top row and then bottom row.
I'm mostly found on Facebook at the moment, but branching out into other social media soon. I have my Night Order series coming out soon with Erie River. So first book November, hopefully.
Yes. It's going to be in November.
It's going to be in November.
It's going to be November. Me and you are doing this.
Yeah, we've had a few setbacks.
We have, but we have overcome them, and it's going to be amazing. Because yours is just going to be like a 5-book series. You've already written book 1. 1 is just needs to be final touches. Book 2 you've written. We're just doing developmental edits, and you're already doing outline for book 3. So it's happening, my friend.
40,000 words into book 3, so we're getting there.
That's crazy. Is right? I'm like a chapter and a half into a book I was thinking about writing a year ago. Cassie.
Yes. You can find me at camcdonald.com. I fail at social media, so I have a Twitter. I can't even tell you what my handle is. I'm
trying to remember if I know what it is.
Yeah, I'm like, is it? I think it's like CA.
That's all right. If you're not on there,
I don't know. It exists. I'm out there somewhere. Earth came out, right? Didn't it?
Earth is out next week, I think.
Okay, so I have that. I'm going to be in that, and then I'm in Fire too.
Yes.
And that's what I have coming up immediately. I finished a sci-fi novel, and I've been shopping that around. So here's hoping that somebody picks that up soon.
Well, congratulations. Well, at least you finished it, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. What kind of sci-fi is it?
It's sort of like sci-fi with a romantic B plot. It's not horror. It's not real dark either.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, good luck on that.
Thank you.
Holly, what is up with you? What do you have coming out? Where can we find you? How do we do this?
So I'm most active on Twitter, and I put my Twitter handle there. See, where is it?
Oh,
Where is
wow,
it?
look at
I
you.
can't line it up there. HL Cornetto. That's where I am probably most active in terms of like writing, and communicating with other writers. I do have a Facebook, but I don't find I use it quite as much. But if you find me there, I'm also Holly Cornetto. In terms of things coming up, things coming out, I just had my debut novella come out. It is based on a short story called Forest Man that I wrote for Erie River Publishing, which was featured in It Calls from the Forest. This novella is available now from Bleeding Edge Books, and it's called We Haunt These Woods.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I really love the cover they did for you.
So yeah, that was Greg Chapman was commissioned to do the cover, and he did an excellent job. And it's really surreal to have this in my hands, and this is the first long form thing I did. I always swore I'm a short story writer. That's all I'm going to do. But that story resonated with me. It stayed with me. The characters stayed with me. So I had to just work on it and expand it. So that I have. I also have a story in it, Veil, which is why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I recently have kept myself busy by I was reading for Erie River's folk horror anthology call.
Yep.
So I sorted through not quite 500 stories, but not that far off from that many to get that out. So that's we also have a shared world anthology. I think the final title for that is Blood Sins. Said it, Michelle?
Yeah.
Which will also be coming out via Erie River in either September or October. And
we're just working timeline on that one.
What else do I have? Was that?
Oh, I was just saying we're working timeline on that one.
Yeah, we don't have an official timeline for that, but that's another one that's like a shared world kind of thing. So it'll be coming out hopefully before the end of the year, but if not, stay tuned. And then the last thing, like I just finished, it's not quite done yet, but I've been co-writing a novel with S.O. Green. If you guys know who that is, they do a lot of work with Erie River. So we've been working on co-writing a novel, and we're getting it to the finishing stages now. So hopefully we'll be like shopping that out soon and seeing what we can do with that.
All exciting stuff. Constantine, what is up with you? Where do we find what is up with you?
All good.
What's new with you? What's coming up next? Where can we find you?
So I'm also mostly active in Facebook right now. I'm working on expanding on other social media, but currently, if you just type my name as you see it here, you're probably going to find me in Facebook. I have my author page there. Aside from It Calls from the Veil, which was incredibly exciting to be accepted there, I also have a very large story, like around 14,000 words, that is coming out in another anthology around the 30th of September. So I'm in an anthology called Haunt from a publisher called Dragon Soul Press.
Okay.
So this is probably going to be my largest story that I have ever had accepted, which is very exciting. And aside from that, I'm also working on a novel, but I'm infamously known as the father of procrastination. So I'm not sure how long this is.
Father of procrastination.
That's perfect. You see, yes, I'm like, that's why when I heard you say that you are on the first chapter of a novel you thought about a year ago, I'm probably on the 5th chapter of the same. So yeah, it's
perfect.
Sort of like that kind of a detective horror, cosmic horror thing.
Very cool.
But we'll see about that.
Well, hopefully one day you will finish.
I really hope so. As well.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you all for coming today. It was a blast getting to talk to you and talking about your stories and just seeing everyone again, because it's been a while. This is the first time I've met Constantine. So hello, and thank you again for coming, everybody. It was a blast. And we will all hopefully do this again very soon. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and hope you have a great day. All right.
Thank you. You do. Bye, everyone.
Do-do-do-do-do.